Making a feature-length film is so unbelievably complicated, it's amazing that anybody manages to do it at all, let alone well. Rather than jump straight in at the deep end, most directors begin their careers with short films, ranging anywhere in length between 5 and 40 minutes and made on a significantly smaller budget than a full-length movie. These petite pictures are a great way to learn the fundamentals of filmmaking without descending into a full-on stress spiral. Some really famous movies started out life as shorter projects, and the horror genre is also full of examples, with some making the transition to feature-length pictures more capably than others. So with that in mind, I'm Ellie for What Culture, and here are 10 great horror movies that started out as short films. Number 10. When a Stranger Calls. One of the best takes on the babysitter and the man upstairs urban legend, 1979's When a Stranger Calls stars Carol Kane as Jill Johnston, a young babysitter who becomes terrorized by a threatening phone caller over the course of an evening. She plucks up the courage to phone the police, who then trace the source of the calls to the house she's babysitting from. The film was directed by Fred Dalton, who took the idea from a short he'd made 2 years earlier called The Sitter. The 21-minute film is essentially the first segment of the full feature, with the remainder of the runtime playing out as a response to those events, even following the killer who stalked Jill following his escape from a psychiatric facility. Dalton and his producer initially tried to get The Sitter nominated for an Oscar, but when that failed, it lay dormant for several years. It was only after the success of When a Stranger Calls that there was renewed interest in the short, which resulted in The Sitter finally seeing the light of day as a DVD extra in 2018. Number 9. Willys Wonderland. The Five Nights at Freddy's movie took so long to get made that somebody managed to make a different movie with pretty much the exact same premise 2 years before it came out. Willys Wonderland follows the exploits of an unnamed janitor as he fights for his life against some creepy animatronics. The film is far less serious than the Five Nights at Freddy's film, and it's also considerably better, although it would have taken a minor miracle for it not to have been. The movie's script, written by G.O. Parsons, caught Nicolas Cage's eye after it gained some traction on Bloodlist, an online forum for unmade horror and thriller projects. Parsons had previously tried to make the movie himself, producing a short called Willys Wonderland. However, Parsons was unhappy with the finished product, and so decided to go down the full-length route. When asked why the project's name was changed from Wally's to Willys, director Kevin Lewis said, quote, "Nick really liked Willy, and so we decided to change the name." Number 8. Trick or Treat. Michael Dougherty's Trick or Treat is a movie that succeeded despite all the odds. This anthology collection, connected by a small demon named Sam who haunts those who break Halloween traditions, took 2 whole years after it was completed to actually be released on video. Even when it was let out, it only played a small number of festival screenings. Thankfully, the quality of the piece and its stellar cast, which features Brian Cox, Anna Paquin and Dylan Baker, among others, led it to become a cult favourite. The film owes its existence to an animated short called Season's Greetings, which Dougherty made in 1996. Sam is once again the main attraction, only this time he is the one in danger, as he is pursued by a mysterious stranger on Halloween evening. Little Sam is now a beloved figure amongst trick-or-treat fans and even starred in his own series of comic books, which were released to tie in with another Dougherty movie, Krampus. Horror fans desperate for more of Sam have been waiting for a long time, but thankfully it looks as if the project is moving ahead with Legendary Pictures, with Michael Dougherty having most recently provided an update on the script of Trick or Treat 2 at the end of 2023. Number 7. Lights Out. In 2013, Swedish director David F. Sandberg released Lights Out, a 3-minute flick about a woman being stalked by a creature that is only visible in the dark. This micro-movie was created for the Bloody Cuts Horror Challenge Film Festival, and it won Sandberg the Best Director gong. More importantly, it became a massive hit on YouTube, which prompted the Hollywood vultures to swoop in. 3 years after his short premiered, Sandberg had transformed Lights Out into a full movie. This version of the film followed a similar premise but went into much more detail, tying the existence of the shadow creature into one of the characters' trauma. Despite its controversial ending, Lights Out was a huge success, raking in nearly $150 million at the box office. Not bad for something that began as a sub-5-minute festival entry. Number 6. What We Do in the Shadows. Before it was a smash hit TV show, What We Do in the Shadows was a feature-length mockumentary from the minds of Jermaine Clement and Taika Waititi. The two New Zealanders play a pair of modern-day vampires who share a flat together. Gut-bustingly funny and dry as a bone, the film was a coup for both of its creators and set Waititi on the path to the Hollywood mega-success he enjoys today. 9 years before they donned their clothes and popped in their false fangs, Clement and Waititi made a short version of the movie. Named What We Do in the Shadows Interviews with Some Vampires, a clear nod to Anne Rice, it stars many of the actors who would go on to reprise their roles in the theatrical release. Stu Rutherford was initially told he'd have a bit part in the story, but ended up being absolutely pivotal to the plot. Number 5. Smile. Parker Finn's Smile was originally destined for the streaming service Paramount+, but test screenings were so positive that the studio opted to release it in theaters. And what a good decision that was. The film made a shed load of money, ending up as 2022's highest grossing horror, and it currently sits amongst the 50 biggest money-making horror films of all time. Finn's journey into the world of demons that pass on a curse through freaky smiles began in 2020, when he directed the short film Laura Hasn't Slept. Featuring Caitlin Stacey as the title character, the film is set in a therapy session between Laura and her counselor, Dr. Parsons. Laura explains to the shrink that she keeps seeing a smiling demon in her dreams, only for the good doctor to reveal himself as the demon and that Laura is trapped in a nightmare. Stacey was rewarded for her efforts with a role at the beginning of Smile as the first woman to kill herself as part of the curse. Number 4. The Babadook. For one of the most frightening, heartfelt and original horror movies of the 21st century so far, look no further than Jennifer Kent's The Babadook. Following the death of her husband, Amelia struggles to look after her incredibly annoying son, Samuel. Things only get worse when the titular creature starts appearing in their house, as Amelia must deal with it and her mounting grief and parental stress. Old Babby's origins lie in a 2005 short film from Kent called Monster, which she herself refers to as Baby Babadook. It's about 10 minutes long and is also about a mother and son and the house-dwelling monster stalking them both. The full-length movie goes into way more emotional detail, as one might expect, but you can definitely see the bare bones of the Babadook in this fragment. Kent also drew on her experiences as a production assistant to help complete the film, particularly when she worked on Lars von Trier's movie Dogville. Number 3. Terrifier. Just when it seemed as if clowns couldn't get any scarier, along came a chap named Art. The white-faced, gore-loving, flesh-eating harlequin is the focal point of the Terrifier series, which at this point has drenched its audience with more blood and guts over the course of 3 films than 1,000 trips in that lift from The Shining. Through his despicable acts, Art has become modern horror royalty, and he got his start in a couple of short films that predate Terrifier by at least 5 years. The first one was 2008's The Ninth Circle, which features Art in a reduced role. He wouldn't take centre stage until another short called Terrifier, which was completed in 2011. Both pieces, which were written and directed by Damien Leone, ended up as part of an anthology called All Hallows Eve, the first feature-length outing for Mr. Art the Clown. Our boy Artie has come a long way since those days, going from cult favourite to a box office topper with no signs of slowing down. Number 2. Saw. Even if you don't like horror movies, chances are you will have seen at least one scene from the Saw franchise, or at the very least you'll have had one described to you against your will. The trap-setting adventures of Jigsaw are nothing short of a phenomenon, having raked in millions of dollars worldwide and made the words "Do you want to play a game?" among the most sinister in the English language. For most fans, it all started with the original film, which came out in 2004, but the real genesis of the series came a year earlier. Writers James Wan and Lee Whannell were having trouble attracting a producer to their original script, so decided to shoot a short based on the movie's now infamous jaw trap scene. The picture, also called Saw, caught the eye of producer Greg Hoffman, who helped fund the finished product. And the rest, as they say, is history. Number 1. The Evil Dead. A young Sam Raimi was desperate to make a horror movie, so recruited his best bud Bruce Campbell to make a short proof-of-concept film in order to attract interest and funds for the real thing. The result of their endeavours, which also starred Ellen Sandweiss, was Within the Woods. This 32-minute reel follows 4 teenagers staying in a remote cabin before they end up disturbing a sacred artifact and battling demonic possession. Sound familiar? After picking up some traction at a local cinema, the film helped generate enough funds for Raimi to make his feature debut. He retained Campbell and Sandweiss's services for a similar premise, albeit this time one that incorporated the work of H.P. Lovecraft. And when it was all said and done, he was left with a little movie called The Evil Dead. The franchise, Raimi and Campbell are all major names now, all thanks to a dinky little short shot by a teenager on a budget of just over $1,000. The success of Within the Woods goes to show that no matter how small you start out, there is no limit to how big you can get.